Long ago, a mighty dragon met his end at the hands of a human champion. As he turned to dust, confusion filled his mind. He had never harmed humans. If anything, he had helped them countless times. So why did they decide to destroy him? He asked, but the humans gave no answer. With no choice left, the dragon assumed they did it for selfish reasons. Still, he had lived for ages and felt no desire to resist. As his body crumbled, he called out to the Grim Reaper, asking to be taken to the underworld for eternal rest. But the Grim Reaper had other plans. Instead of guiding his soul to the afterlife, the Reaper shoved it into the body of a newborn baby. When the dragon opened his eyes again, he was no longer the powerful creature he once was. Now he was a tiny human, looking up at his new parents and an older brother. They named him Dolan. Years passed, and Dolan grew up in a quiet village. Despite having once been killed by humans, he found himself caring deeply for them. The village was built around farming, and everyone had to work hard to survive. Every morning, Dolan helped in the fields, earning his share of food. In this village, people became adults at 18, and now that he had reached that age, he moved into his own home, learning to take care of himself completely. One afternoon, Dolan and his older brother went fishing. As they sat by the water, his brother reminded him about his upcoming trip to the swamp. Dolan nodded. He hadn't forgotten. A month ago, all the lizards in the swamp had vanished, and no one knew why. If left unchecked, this could spell trouble for the village. Someone had to investigate. Dolan acknowledges that under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have to handle this task. But with Captain Balin and the others occupied guarding the village, he doesn't want to trouble them over something so minor. Dolan's brother offers to accompany him to ensure his safety. But Dolan reassures him, saying, "That won't be necessary." Moments later, at that moment, his fishing rod jerked. He pulled hard and reeled in a large fish, the first catch of the day. Their conversation ended as they focused on fishing, and by the time they finished, Dolan had caught plenty. Back in the village, Dolan proudly showed his catch to his friends, Mill and Albert. They were impressed but also concerned. "You should be preparing for your trip," Albert pointed out. "I've been getting ready for days," Dolan assured them. Mill smiled. "Still, I had to talk the village chief into letting you go. So don't take this lightly." Dolan nodded, grateful. Mill had trained under him and trusted his ability to return safely. Tomorrow, he would leave for the swamp. Whatever was causing the strange events there, he would find out soon enough. When Dolan asks about their plans for the day, Mill mentions she'll be leading a training session with the village children, but insists he needn't worry about it, as he has enough on his plate. With that, Dolan heads home to clean and prepare the fish. As he works, his thoughts drift to the village's efforts to maintain security. Since hiring enough guards is financially impossible, every villager contributes to their collective safety. Suddenly, Ari appeared at his window, reminding him that he had magic practice. Realizing he had completely forgotten, Dolan thanked her for the reminder, and they headed to his magic instructor's home. When they arrived, Dolan was asked to show his attack magic. He chanted a spell, unleashing a strong energy blast that destroyed the target in front of him. His instructor praised his powerful attack magic, saying there wasn't much left to teach him in that area. However, she pointed out that he was weak in healing magic and planned to focus on that in his future lessons. Later that evening, Dolan finds himself in the town square, where he encounters a young girl with long, flowing white hair. The village chief introduces her as a noble guest who will be staying in the village for a while. He advises Dolan to be on his best behavior around her, given her status. One day, a girl introduced herself to Dolan. "My name is Christina," she said, extending her hand for a handshake. As soon as Dolan shook her hand, he could tell she was a highly skilled fighter. After she left, Dolan took a walk, reflecting on everything he had learned since becoming human. As a dragon, he never had to think about survival in the same way, but as a human, he had to be careful. Winter brought the danger of freezing, while summer could cause heat exhaustion. He had to stay aware of his surroundings. Soon, he arrived at his parents' home. His mother and father welcomed him warmly, along with his younger brother, Marco. Dolan had brought fresh ingredients, and his mother happily took them to prepare a delicious meal. As they ate, Dolan savored the food. He had truly missed his mother's cooking. His father chuckled and said, "You should find a wife who can cook like this, so you can enjoy meals like this all the time." Dolan had heard this before. He wasn't against the idea of marriage, but for now, he was content with staying single a little longer. Marco asks Dolan if he's still planning to investigate the swamp tomorrow. Dolan shrugs it off, saying it's not a big deal. However, his mother is deeply worried. Not only is the swamp far away, but the road leading there is notoriously dangerous. Dolan reassures her, promising to avoid unnecessary risks and insisting there's no need for such concern. His father, though more composed, reminds Dolan that as an adult, he's free to make his own choices, but he asks one thing: just make sure you come back safely to us. The next morning, as Dolan got ready to leave, the whole village gathered to see him off. He found it overwhelming, thinking it was too much for just a simple departure. Captain Balin, however, assured him that it was only right, since Dolan was taking on a task Balin would have done himself. Still, Balin admitted he felt bad about not being able to go. Mill quickly reminded him that his job was to stay and defend the village in case of a monster attack. Wanting to help in their own ways, the villagers brought gifts. Letitia, the village nun, gave Dolan a protective blessing. Ari handed him a well-prepared bento box so he wouldn't go hungry on his journey. With their warm wishes and thoughtful gifts, they all wished Dolan good luck as he set off toward the swamp. The swamp had once been home to lizards that sometimes interacted with the villagers, but they had suddenly disappeared. This strange event couldn't be ignored, so Dolan had volunteered to investigate. Even so, he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling about what he might discover. Upon reaching the swamp, Dolan places a hand on the ground, sensing the flow of elemental energies. He quickly discovers the root of the problem. The earth elemental's power has grown disproportionately strong, while the water elemental's influence has weakened significantly. This imbalance had driven the lizards to abandon their habitat. As he processes this discovery, the sound of rustling bushes snaps him to attention. However, as he readies his blade, he is shocked to find the lamia behind him. Lamia aren't usually seen around here, but as strange as it may be for her to be here, she's definitely a smash. The lamia asks Dolan if he's alone, and Dolan confirms that he came by himself, which relieves the lamia, because what she's about to do would be embarrassing if there were other people here. She tries to remember when her mother taught her to do it, and from what she remembers, she's supposed to use a charm spell and then do a bunch of movements. But she doesn't remember how to do it right. Dolan is more confused than he is charmed, but the lamia carries on to tell him that she didn't come here for a fight. But all of a sudden, a giant mud monster shows up above her, and that thing doesn't look like the calm and reasonable type. The monster lunges at the lamia, but Dolan intervenes just in time, severing its arm before pulling the lamia to safety. They crouch in silence, hidden from the prowling creature, until it finally gives up and retreats. Once the danger has passed, the lamia turns to Dolan and asks what the creature was. Dolan explains that it's a deranged earth elemental, likely the reason the swamp's lizard folk were forced to flee. He adds that a recent earthquake may have unbalanced the elemental's nature, and sadly, the swamp isn't likely to recover soon. The lamia introduces herself as Selena. Knowing that lamia are often adept at magic, Dolan asks if she can use it. Selena confirms she has magical abilities, prompting Dolan to propose teaming up to defeat the earth elemental. Initially flustered, Selena hesitates, pointing out that as an earth creature herself, most of her spells would be ineffective. However, she mentions having one spell that might work. Dolan quickly formulates a plan. He'll engage the elemental head-on while Selena supports him from a distance. They take their positions, though Selena feels uneasy about collaborating with a human she just met. With little choice, she steels herself. At Dolan's signal, they charge into action. Dolan distracts the elemental with relentless strikes, allowing Selena to cast her spell. She summons a massive serpent that coils around the elemental, binding it tightly. The distraction works, giving Dolan a critical opening. As the serpent begins to lose its grip, Dolan takes advantage of the moment. He rushes forward, infusing his sword with draconic energy. With a single powerful strike, he cleaves the elemental in two, ending its rampage. The elemental dissolves into ordinary mud, splattering everywhere and drenching Selena from head to tail. Dolan hurries to check on her, relieved to find she's unharmed. Laughing slightly at her muddied state, he assures her they'll get her cleaned up soon and promises to help restore her dignity after the messy victory. That night, Dolan sets up camp and is preparing dinner for himself and Selena. Selena is surprised that Dolan isn't even slightly scared of her, even though she's a lamia, so Dolan explains that he has met lamia before. But even so, Selena is different from those he has met before. Most lamia are wary of humans and are much more aggressive. But now that he thinks about it, there aren't any lamia villages nearby. So he's wondering what Selena is doing out here. Selena explains that it's a part of their people's tradition that when you turn, you need to leave home and go find yourself a husband. This is why she's away from her village. The Lamia race is cursed, so they only give birth to girls. And on the rare occasion that they do give birth to a boy, it's always a boy and their husband's race. The curse also gives them their snake-like bodies and makes their bodily fluids poisonous. And, as you would expect, finding a partner is pretty difficult, because there's a good chance they die from touching you because of that. She needs to make sure her husband has a body that's strong enough to resist poison. But there aren't many people like that out there. Selena's mother got lucky and managed to meet the perfect human while on a journey, and both Selena's parents got along great. Dolan smiles and says he's glad Selena is happy, but she interprets his tone as condescending, suspecting he's treating her like a child. Dolan quickly clarifies, telling her he just finds it adorable when she talks like that. Embarrassed, Selena becomes flustered, her cheeks flushing. To change the subject, Dolan pours her a bowl of his soup. He admits it might not rival his mother's cooking, but is confident she'll enjoy it. Selena takes a sip, and her eyes widen with delight. Overwhelmed by the soup's rich flavor, she starts gushing about how amazing it is. Catching herself mid-ramble, she stops abruptly, apologizing for her excitement. Dolan chuckles, reassures her, and says he's happy she likes it. As they sit by the fire, Dolan shares memories of his family, describing how they would gather around a fire on cold winter nights to enjoy this very soup. Selena senses the deep love Dolan holds for his family, a warmth that contrasts sharply with the loneliness he endured during his long years as a dragon, isolated in a dark cave. The next morning, as the sun rises, Dolan and Selena prepare to part ways. Dolan wishes her well and jokes about her finding a good husband. Before leaving, he decides to give her a gift. Recalling that Lamia thrive on life energy, Dolan channels some of his own into her. However, the potency of his draconic life force overwhelms Selena, causing her to faint instantly. Alarmed, Dolan apologizes profusely, realizing belatedly that his energy might be far too strong for her to handle. Once Selena has recovered, Dolan tells her he'll be heading back to his village. Before setting off, he invites her to visit him sometime, smiling warmly. With that, he begins his journey home, leaving Selena with a newfound sense of connection and a lingering blush. The story continues. We see two villagers come back from a night of partying when they notice a fair figure. They're surprised to discover that it's a beautiful woman, so they tell her that a village party just ended, and it's dangerous to travel alone. Selena, our snake-like heroine, cheerfully replies that she'll be fine. She's actually tougher than she looks. Unfortunately, Selena's a little too much snake for their liking, so they run for their lives. Selena tries to explain that she means no harm, but her attempt to earn the trust of humans is going to be a lot harder than she thought. Back in the village, Dolan is learning the art of potion making under the watchful eye of Grandma Maguru, alongside Eri, the red-haired prodigy. Grandma Maguru emphasizes that potion making is a delicate and precise craft, relying on rare and unstable magical ingredients. Dolan, ever the novice, proves her point by botching his potion, causing it to fizz uncontrollably and fail spectacularly. Grandma Maguru scolds him for his lack of finesse, to which Dolan jokingly replies that with a little practice and the right recipe, he could become the next Heisenberg of alchemy. Eri notices Dolan's frustration and tries to lift his spirits. She reassures him that mistakes are part of the process and reminds him of his many strengths, such as his sharp eye for medicinal herbs and his natural kindness toward the village children. Quietly, she mutters something about how cool she finds him, though Dolan only catches snippets of her words. Her encouragement strikes a chord, and Dolan promises not to give up, though he acknowledges that mastering alchemy will take time and effort. Eri, already skilled at potion making, impresses Grandma Maguru so much that she's dismissed early from class. She uses the opportunity to help her mother with chores, leaving Dolan to continue his lessons. As he watches her go, Dolan sighs, reminiscing about his former life as a mighty dragon, where potions and healing herbs were utterly unnecessary luxuries. Grandma Maguru interrupts his musings, reminding him that while his offensive magic is remarkable, he has a lot to learn about the fundamentals of alchemy. She sternly advises him that there are no shortcuts in the pursuit of knowledge, just perseverance and the occasional detour. Later, Dolan finds himself at Eri's family table, surrounded by a sea of gingers. Her father blesses the meal in honor of Myril, the goddess of earth. Though Dolan respectfully bows his head, his thoughts wander to his own jade prayer, a symbol of his past and a connection to the goddess he hasn't encountered in ages. Feeling the weight of the day, Dolan hurries through the village, determined not to be late for his magic training. But just as he reaches the training grounds, a familiar voice calls out to him. Miss Myo stands nearby, waving to catch his attention. Dolan pauses, curious about what she might want, as the story takes an unexpected turn. Miss Myo is a demi-human who's part cattle, and she reminds Dolan that milk makes bones stronger. Miss Myo says that her jugs are filled with milk and even offers to let Dolan drink straight from the tap. Miss Myo must be exhausted all the time because she provides the good people of the village with fresh milk every day, and its taste is so exquisite. Dolan struggles to say no when she offers him some. Our boy Dolan tries to resist. He really does, but in the end, there's just no saying no to Miss Myo and her special brew. Dolan thanks her for the meal and downs the whole mug full before running off. Now just a little more late for practice, in his haste, he doesn't even notice Lady Christina, who watches him from afar nearby. Albert claps his hands, signaling the end of the spear lesson for the local kids. As soon as they're dismissed, the children spot Dolan and eagerly rush over to him, showing off their skills and vying for his attention. Albert shoos them away with a stern look, leaving Dolan to his thoughts. His focus shifts to the nearby forest, where he senses something familiar and unsettling, a demon's presence. Yet, instead of raising an alarm, Dolan brushes it off, claiming it's nothing. That night, curiosity drives Dolan back into the forest, lantern in hand. He wonders why a demon would be lingering in such a quiet, unassuming place. Pushing through the thick underbrush, he finally finds the source of the presence. Selena. To his surprise, she's in the middle of giving herself a sponge bath, her tail swishing nervously as she notices him. Caught off guard, Selena yelps and loses her balance, teetering dangerously. Dolan reacts instinctively, catching her before she hits the ground. For a moment, they freeze, her flustered expression meeting his steady gaze, as the forest falls silent around them. At this point, Selena is red with embarrassment and tells Dolan not to look, but this only confuses him. The awkward dragon man doesn't understand why he should look away, and he just wonders if Selena's milk tastes as good as Miss Myo's. Like the creepy he is, Dolan explains that it's only natural to crave beautiful things, but Selena has had enough of his brazen attitude. With a slap that echoes across the forest, Selena smacks a little bit of consideration for a woman's feelings into the Dragon Lord. Eager to move past the awkwardness of their encounter, Dolan shifts the conversation to why Selena is here. She explains that she had been traveling south in search of a partner but found it increasingly difficult to fit in among humans. Dolan listens attentively, genuinely happy to see her again. He admits he missed her and is determined to help however he can. That's when Dolan, ever the impulsive thinker, proposes an idea. He suggests Selena move in with him, joking that it would give him more opportunities to accidentally walk in on her. Selena is left speechless, quickly reminding Dolan that she's a monster and doubts the humans in the village would accept her. Dolan, however, dismisses her concerns with a grin. He points out that their village already coexists with plenty of unsightly creatures and insists that her kind heart and personality would win everyone over. Selena finds herself enchanted by the possibility of forging friendships with humans. When Dolan adds that he'd love to have her as a housemate, she begins to warm to the idea, though even Dolan can't ignore how flirtatious their exchange has become. Selena then reveals the true reason she's here. She had been searching for Dolan. She confesses that the spiritual energy he shared with her during their last meeting was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was so incredible that she couldn't resist coming back for more. Dolan, both amused and intrigued, assures her that if she moves in, he'll gladly share his life energy with her whenever she needs it. As Selena eagerly accepts another dose of his spiritual energy, she revels in its power, describing it as pure bliss. Meanwhile, Dolan outlines his plan to integrate her into village life. The thought of living together excites both of them, though it's clear to Dolan now just how much their dynamic is shifting into something more meaningful. There's something of a mystery brewing. We join Mr. Clean and the guard standing over an offering, a freshly caught game. While many would see this as a free feast, the captain sees only a problem. This is the third time in as many days someone or something has left these strange offerings. As Mill studies the tracks leading away from the scene, she notes how they look like something left behind by a giant snake. There have been strange sightings in the woods recently, and this only confirms it for the captain. The village must have a lamia problem. This brings fear to everyone as Lamia are typically powerful and dangerous monsters. The 100-year-old village chief is somehow still alive, and he has all the elders convened for an emergency meeting. In the room is Dolan's father, Old Lady Maguru, and even Christina. They discuss the issue, and while they all agree that the presence of such a powerful demon could only spell trouble for their village, they can't understand why it was leading such delicious gifts day after day. Mill considers herself to be somewhat of a foodie, so she thinks about how good the fish they found tasted. Mr. Clean, who would see nightmares, gives his lieutenant the side eye and reminds her to remain focused. To him, there's only one solution. He wants to assemble their strike force to seek out and deal with this threat before it's too late. The other elders tell them to calm down before this way on his shiny bald head blinds everyone in the room. Lamia sightings were no trivial matter. A creature of such power posed a serious threat to the village's thinly spread defenses. It wasn't something that could be resolved with a quick intervention or Captain Ballan's famous all-purpose approach. Meanwhile, Dolan, ever attuned to the village's murmurs, overheard the heated deliberations among the elders. He hadn't realized just how deep the divide between humans and monsters ran, but he remained steadfast in his belief that Selena could bridge that gap. The elders' discussion soon devolved into a chaotic argument until Grandma Maguru, the voice of wisdom, stepped in. Her commanding presence silenced the room. She acknowledged Captain Ballan's diligence in safeguarding the village but pointed out that his caution had blinded him to the Lamia's peaceful intentions. Grandma Maguru revealed she had a plan to prove her point. Right on cue, Eri burst into the room, carrying a fortune-telling charm. Though her sudden arrival startled everyone, Maguru calmly examined the charm's results. After a moment of intense scrutiny, she declared with confidence that the Lamia was likely a good omen. Her call for patience and compassion swayed the elders for the time being. Dolan, pretending to work nearby, listened intently. Hearing Grandma Maguru's declaration, he felt a surge of relief and excitement. His plan was falling into place. Without hesitation, he rushed back to Selena's hiding spot in the forest. His enthusiasm was contagious as he relayed the good news. The villagers were beginning to warm up to the idea of the Lamia, and the elders were less likely to call for aggressive action. Dolan knew this was the perfect moment to advance their plan. At dawn, Captain Ballan gathered the village's soldiers. His stirring speech reminded them of their duty to protect the village at all costs, emphasizing the recent Lamia sightings. Among the crowd was his son, Toro, who watched with pride as his father, clad in armor, rallied the troops. Alongside the captain were some of the village's most formidable figures: Mill, his capable right hand, and Letitia, the warrior none known for her miraculous deeds. Dolan observed the gathering from a distance, carefully evaluating the situation. Letitia's presence was a potential problem. Her unwavering faith and harsh stance against perceived evil could turn the village against Selena if things went wrong. But despite the risks, Dolan felt confident. With the village's strongest defenders present, the stage was perfectly set for the final phase of his plan. He believed in Selena's kindness and their shared resolve. If everything went smoothly, Dolan was certain that the villagers would come to see Selena not as a monster, but as one of their own. The time to prove her worth had come, and Dolan was determined to see their plan succeed. From her vantage point in the woods nearby, Selena hid and nearly wet herself from nervousness. Recalling Dolan's plan, Selena was biding her time and waiting for his cue. Dolan was meant to charge headlong into a pack of monsters he knew to be nearby, and it was Selena's job to swoop in at the very last minute and rescue him in front of everyone. Risky, but heroic. A surefire way to earn everyone's trust. A genius plan developed by our brilliant protagonist with no possible way for things to go wrong. Just then, a guard comes running out of the woods, howling in fear because he was being chased. Ballan wasted no time and shouted orders to his guardsmen, getting them ready to face the Lamia he assumed. He's coming. Dolan hasn't given the signal to his friend hiding in the bushes, and Selena wonders if another Lamia has appeared. However, what emerges from the woods is no snake. A massive, ferocious beast known as an armored bear lets loose some monstrous roars as it topples trees and charges into the clearing. Ballan is shocked, and he knows that his men can't handle this threat head-on. He orders the retreat, but in the confusion, Toro proves to be the most useless character in this anime, and he's noted to the floor. Seeing little Toro as a snack because his father has already given up on him, Winnie the Pooh rabies begins to advance on the boy. Luckily, Dolan isn't a coward like the bald guy, so he rushes in, but he realizes that he won't make it in time. Unfortunately, Dolan decides that he will have to use his dragon powers in front of everyone. But Selena comes out of nowhere to take the monster's attack. Selena takes a nasty wound in the process, and everyone is shocked to see that a Lamia risked its life to protect humans. Despite her wounds, Selena summons the strength to turn her cursed gaze upon the armored bear. Channeling the ancient power of her Lamian heritage, she casts a spell that seizes control of the bear's mind. Her voice, calm yet commanding, instructs the beast to return to the forest. The bear, once snarling with rage, becomes docile, its aggression dissipating in moments. It obeys without hesitation, lumbering back into the woods. The villagers stand frozen in shock, unable to comprehend the power they've just witnessed. Selena's evil eyes, a formidable and mysterious magic, had saved them all. Blood streaks down her back, but Selena brushes her pain aside, her only concern being Dolan and young Toro. Meanwhile, Captain Balin and his guards finally shake off their stunned silence. Balin, still distrustful, shouts for Selena to step away from Dolan and Toro. Dolan, however, sends Toro back to his father while remaining by Selena's side. His stance is unwavering. He argues passionately that he won't abandon the girl who saved their lives, even if she is a Lamia. Balin, livid at Dolan's defiance, insists that demons are inherently dangerous. But Dolan stands firm, shielding Selena from the growing hostility. His resolve begins to sow doubt in the minds of others, including Mill, who starts to question whether Selena is truly a threat. Seeing the tension escalate, Balin decides to question Selena directly. Selena answers with honesty and humility. She admits that she was the one who had been leaving gifts for the village and explains her journey. She reveals that she is half-human and had been seeking companionship among humans, longing to learn from them and forge bonds. With tears streaming down her face, Selena kneels before Balin and the villagers, her hands clasped in a plea for understanding. "I saved them because I couldn't bear to see their families grieve," she cries. "I would never harm humans." Her genuine anguish and selflessness move some of the villagers, but Balin remains skeptical. He turns to his sister, Letitia, for guidance. Letitia, deep in prayer, suddenly speaks, her voice trembling with emotion as she relays a divine message from Myril, the Holy Earth Mother. The goddess declares Selena to be no enemy, urging the villagers to welcome her as one of their own. Letitia also notes Selena's gesture of goodwill, keeping her cursed eyes closed to avoid frightening the villagers. At her urging, Selena hesitantly opens her eyes, revealing not malice but a vulnerability that touches everyone present. The moment shifts the atmosphere. The villagers, guards, and even Balin begin to see Selena not as a monster, but as someone deserving of their trust and compassion. The seeds of harmony between human and Lamia are sown, and Dolan, standing proudly by Selena's side, knows they have taken a vital first step. But the moment she does, Selena collapses. After she awakens, Selena is led to her new house in the village, courtesy of its grateful people. Even Balin has helped furnish the cozy place with some cushions and plushies as a means of both an apology for doubting her and a thank you for saving his son. The cursed child curses the whole place just by speaking, and she says that they don't really know a lot about Lamia, so as good neighbors, they should get to know each other more. Dolan steps forward and offers his hand to Selena. The scene is made to look like it's a good thing that he just lied to everyone that cares about him, and the two supposed strangers pretend to meet for the first time all over again. The story continues. We see Selena and Balin then cheerfully gets to know one another. Dolan thinks about what just happened, and he realizes that his good friend Myril really did a massive solid that night. Dolan goes into his astral form, which he hasn't used in ages, so he can escape his hideous human body and pay a visit to his most holy of allies. Dolan can't get away from himself fast enough, and his form takes on that of his old self, the mighty blue-eyed ghost dragon. There, beyond the realm of mortals, he finds a city in the sky. Waiting for the overly muscular dragon is Myril, the mother goddess. She looks like she just came from a celestial fashion show, and she is a longtime friend of our hero. Dolan accidentally refers to her as goddess, and Myril teases him about how he must be taken to his new life very well if he started calling her that. Showing off a lot of heavy cleavage development, Myril says that she already knows why he is here. It's about the Lamia. Dolan thanks her profusely for helping his legless reptile friend, and he wonders how the goddess managed to recognize him and his new life as a boring and poorly dressed farm boy. Myril says it was easy enough. When she felt his spirit in the prayers of the villagers, she notes that his spirit is now full of life and joy, whereas his old self was tired of living. Dolan nodded thoughtfully, recalling the moment the hero's blade pierced his heart. It was oddly akin to the relief one feels after enduring a drought of good anime, an end to an agonizing wait. As a human, he had learned much about mortal existence, the relentless struggles of their fleeting lives and the weight of their ephemeral time on Earth. These experiences had undeniably changed him, and Myril could see that the transformation was for the better. With a knowing smile, she spread her peculiar wings, which were somehow attached to her lower back, and soared gracefully toward him. She expressed her happiness for Dolan's newfound peace and extended her wish for Selena to find her own joy. With a final word of thanks, Dolan returned to his human form, weightless, muscular, and annoyingly cool, just in time to be jolted awake by the arrival of his favorite snake girl. Bursting through the door with infectious energy, she reminded Dolan of the promise he made to plant potatoes with Christina in the bustling capital city. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a young woman hurried through the grand halls of an academy, clutching a letter tightly. Around her, tiny fairies, no larger than a hand, flitted about like industrious mosquitoes, performing all manner of tasks, from organizing books to delivering messages. One particularly harried fairy handed the letter off to Olivia, the academy's meticulously dressed dean and a woman who exuded professionalism despite the chaos around her. Olivia, sharing the young woman's enthusiasm, snapped her fingers to open the letter in a display of casual magic. The parchment unfolded itself, revealing insights into Christina's life in the village of Bern. In the village square, a lively crowd gathered to watch Christina engage in daily combat training. Facing Mill, a skilled opponent, Christina impressed onlookers by holding her ground against the village's seasoned vice-captain. The sparring escalated, with Mill unleashing her full strength. A whirlwind of strikes and slashes culminated in Christina disarming Mill, sending her sword skittering across the ground. Mill, shocked but graceful in defeat, accepted Christina's praise. When Christina called her swordsmanship beautiful, Mill was momentarily flustered, wondering if there was more to the compliment than met the ear. Before the awkwardness lingered, the ever-efficient Mr. Clean arrived to mop the training area and declared it time for a feast to celebrate Christina's victory. As the festivities began, Christina marveled at the warmth and acceptance of the villagers. It was unlike anything she'd ever known, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of belonging. That night, amidst the celebratory atmosphere, the village became a haven for her. As local girls gushed over Christina's striking appearance, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who had been watching, seized the moment to approach her. Before she could respond, Captain Balin, the renowned party enthusiast, swooped in, drawing attention with his boisterous energy. His comrades quickly intervened, warning Christina to steer clear of his antics. Balin, undeterred, redirected his party spirit toward two other willing participants. Selena, however, seemed unsettled. Watching the revelry unfold, she couldn't shake the feeling that something important was being left unsaid, a shadow of unease lingering beneath the night's festivities. Later that night, Christina watches as the Three Stooges leave for the night. Unable to sleep, probably because she's wearing literally all of her clothes to bed, Christina comes up with the perfect idea to help her relax. Intense sword practice, swinging her blade under the moonlight. The white-haired noblewoman comes across Dolan and Selena strolling along like a couple of insomniacs with nothing better to do. Our favorite snake person notices right away that something is wrong, so she offers to show Christina her new home. Selena goes straight for her bed, her favorite part of the house, and invites Selena to join her. This moves Dolan. He encourages her to do so, but warns that while the bed might be nice for Lamia, it might not suit a human so well. Christine is undaunted and plops right down into the hay and cushions. Turns out that it's pretty comfortable after all. Selena says that the bed was Baldhead's idea, and Christina is surprised. Being quite the chatterbox, Selena explains that the cow woman is actually Balin's wife. Everyone loves her huge jugs of milk, and all the villagers even compete over who can drink the most. As the girls get to talking, it turns out that there's a lot Christina doesn't know about the people of the village. Dolan is soon pulled into the bed as well to join in on all the juicy gossiping. The three of them happily chatted the night away, and Dolan thinks about how all those years of dating simulator practice have finally paid off. The next day, Christina joins Selena at the tavern, and they find Jeff Bezos on steroids boasting about how much he can drink. Turns out he wasn't talking about alcohol, but his wife's milk. Balin proved to be into some really weird stuff as he really enjoys watching other guys drink his wife's milk, and he tells his buddies to enjoy his wife's all-you-can-drink dairy bar. Christina then explains that she has come to taste Miss Mew's world-famous milk. Mew wants her to taste her freshest batch, so she rushes off to milk herself. Evil Jeff Bezos is impressed by how much of his wife's milk Christina was able to drink, so he challenges her to a good old-fashioned drink-off. Christina eagerly accepts his challenge, but tells him not to get upset when she drains his wife's cans empty. The two knock back mug after mug, and everyone watches in horror as they realize how weird this all is. Soon, it becomes clear that the longtime dairy champion is having trouble keeping up with Christina, and Balin eventually collapses in defeat. Everyone then celebrates and has a good time. Just when it seemed like things couldn't get any weirder, Mew introduces her daughter. Mew is planning to launch a new product to her dairy line, and she wants some milk-drinking champions to get the first taste. Mill hands over the milk, and Christina doesn't hesitate. She loves this stuff, and when she asks for seconds, Mill is positively overjoyed. As that terribly awkward scene comes to a merciful end, we return to the capital. Dean Olivia is delighted to see her favorite student, Christina, forming new friendships, but her mood darkens when she hears rumors spreading about Christina associating with Alamia. The one-eyed witch Kieran approaches Olivia, her presence unsettling as always. Kieran brings up Selena, expressing her concerns about the dangers of allowing Alamia into the village. Olivia, however, reminds Kieran that her role as a government agent does not include micromanaging small village affairs. Kieran isn't convinced. She argues that humans should not coexist with creatures as dangerous as Lamia and points to the recent string of disappearances in the region as evidence of potential threats. Olivia tries to calm the situation, citing the divine blessing from Myril that allowed Selena to live among the villagers peacefully. But Kieran refuses to drop the issue. Summoning the Lord of the Land, an awkward figure with a ridiculous hat, Kieran ensures the matter escalates. The Lord, Gouda, wastes no time siding with Kieran. He declares that action is needed and decides to send his soldiers to Burn Village to reassert his authority. Back in Burn Village, Selena and Christina are busy planting potatoes, their unique methods drawing amused looks from Dolan. Selena's approach is unconventional and inefficient, while Christina uses her brute strength to punch holes into the dirt like a warrior. Their agricultural antics are interrupted when a commotion erupts in the village square. Gouda has arrived, along with his soldiers and his oversized hat. Gouda accuses Dolan of recklessly bringing a dangerous Lamia into sacred territory. Before Dolan can respond, Priestess Letitia steps forward to defend Selena, reminding Gouda of the goddess Myril's blessing. Gouda, however, claims he isn't challenging the goddess's will but insists on verifying that Selena poses no threat, a statement that seems to contradict itself. Dolan grows suspicious of Gouda's true intentions, recognizing that the absence of a royal elimination squad suggests an ulterior motive. The pompous lord declares that Selena must accompany him to the capital for evaluation. Dolan immediately volunteers to join her, arguing that he is responsible for her presence in the village. Gouda agrees, stating that Dolan's involvement will simplify matters. As Selena and Dolan are taken away, Christina watches with growing frustration. Determined to intervene, she decides to seek help from the headmaster. Enchanting herself with a speed spell, Christina races off in a blur, resolved to ensure her friend's safety. Meanwhile, Selena and Dolan exchange a look of determination. Whatever awaits them in the capital, they are ready to face it together. On the wagon ride to the city, Selena puts on a brave face, but our dragon genius overhero knows what she is thinking. He tells her not to worry and draws her close to him. It's something his mother used to do when he got worried, and it always helped. Dolan lets her know that everything's going to be okay. If at any point she feels sorry for being who she is, she can expect a stern lecturing from him that lasts all night long. Suddenly, Dean Olivia's doors fly open, and her teeth spray everywhere as her favorite supercharger student crashes in. Christina is there to talk about what's happened to Selena, and she won't take no for an answer. Olivia's fairy slaves serve Christina some tea, and she explains that this isn't Gouda's doing. It's the witch Kieran. Kieran is a higher-up, and she suspects that Selena is involved in the recent disappearances. Christina defends her, and Olivia agrees that the scaly snake girl could not be involved. Unfortunately, if Kieran decides to put the blame on her, then there's nothing anyone can do. Christine is horrified to hear this, and we get a glimpse of the evil witch. She's obviously up to something, and we see that the soldiers escorting Dolan and Selena are planning something sinister as well. The story continues. We see moments later, in secret, Dolan and Selena speak with Gouda, who looks just like a mushroom. Whatever their walking mushroom says really shocks our two heroes to their core. We next see Christina, whose glasses are missing all the important parts, discussing the matter of Selena's abduction and Kieran, the witch who had brought her to the city under suspicion. Christina fumes at the injustice unfolding, but despite her authority, Dean Olivia knows she can't act without risking an abuse of power. To complicate matters, Olivia mentions a separate, pressing concern that demands her attention. Meanwhile, Dolan and Selena arrive in the bustling city of Galois, where Kieran waits for them, standing in her signature stoic pose. The one-eyed which seems almost amused as she greets them, her surprise evident when she notices Dolan, the unassuming hero she often overlooks. She bids a small mushroom man to finish his report before extending an invitation to Dolan and Selena to join her for dinner. The banquet laid before them is nothing short of exquisite. Selena's eyes light up at the sight of the sumptuous feast, but Dolan remains suspicious, cutting straight to the chase. Kieran surprises him by assuring that the paperwork finalizing Selena's right to stay in the village will be completed by morning. For now, she insists they relax and enjoy the meal. Her unexpected kindness eases Selena's worries. She had feared being executed simply for being a lamia. Kieran waves off such fears, explaining that while she initially suspected Selena of using her charm to manipulate the villagers, meeting her in person has dispelled those doubts. Despite Kieran's reassurances, an unsettling undertone lingers, accentuated by ominous music in the background. Elsewhere, back in Dean Olivia's office, the mushroom man arrives unannounced, his arrival accompanied by his own eerie soundtrack. Christina is startled by his sudden presence, but before she can question him, Governor Gouda enters. Calm yet deliberate, the governor insists on speaking with Olivia immediately. Back at the dinner table, Kieran inquires if Dolan and Selena are enjoying the wine. Dolan is visibly tipsy, though something feels off. Kieran shifts her focus to Selena, marveling at her beauty. Her golden hair, radiant blue eyes, and shimmering scales. There's something almost predatory in her tone as she praises the lamia's unique features. At last, Kieran reveals her second eye, a gleaming symbol of malice, as she declares her sinister intent. She can't wait to devour every inch of Selena. The wine, it turns out, was spiked with a powerful sedative, and before Dolan and Selena can react, they collapse into unconsciousness. Back at the library, the governor hesitates before divulging the truth, but ultimately decides it's time to break the silence about the contract Kieran made him sign. He reveals that the city has been plagued by a string of disappearances, young women vanishing without a trace. Christina has heard of these incidents but notes that none of the missing have been found dead. Impatient as ever, she demands to know how this ties back to Selena. Gouda explains the disturbing rumor of an ancient mage residing in the city, said to be over 1,000 years old. Christina's first assumption is Olivia, but Gouda quickly corrects her. This figure, though human, has lived far beyond a natural lifespan, likely through forbidden magic. Gouda suspects the mage has been stealing the youth of these kidnapped women to sustain their life, and now, rumors suggest the lamia might be their next target. Alarmed, the group decides they must move quickly. Together, Christina, Gouda, and the mushroom man resolve to confront Kieran at her estate and put an end to her twisted plans. Back at the freak show, we discovered that, to no one's surprise, Kieran has an underground plot dungeon beneath her home. Selena is laid out on a table, about to be dissected in the name of fine cuisine while Kieran looms over her, mouth practically watering at the thought of the vitality she's about to cut out of our poor lamia. Picking up a scalpel, Kieran figures she'll just peel off some of the skin first and decide what to do with the rest later. Thankfully, Dolan forces the ketamine out of his system and wakes up. Though he was just bound and tied up earlier, he easily tears apart his trappings and warns Kieran not to touch Selena. Dolan notices that Kieran has been doodling on the ground, but he is horrified to realize that her little drawings are made of blood. It seems that Kieran has been doing this for a long time now. Kieran quickly realizes that Dolan is not as human as he might appear. Dolan demands to know how many people the witch has slain, but Kieran is unapologetic as she reveals that she stopped counting after her 50th victim. She has been experimenting with life for hundreds of years, taking bits and pieces of her subjects to renew herself and retain her beauty. Her leg, her arms, even her skin, each taken from girls of all manner of races. She's been doing a pretty good job Frankenstein-ing herself together because she doesn't look a day over 30. Kieran remains unsatisfied, driven by an insatiable desire to perfect her beauty. She reveals her plan to use Selena's unique essence to enhance her appearance further. Dolan, disgusted, declares that such magic should be outlawed. Kieran, unfazed, boasts that her research has earned the recognition of powerful figures. Dolan labels her an abomination, and to his surprise, Selena agrees. The witch is shocked that both of them have resisted her potent sedatives. Selena accuses Kieran of cruelty for ruining the lives and dreams of the young women who had come before her. Kieran, however, dismisses the accusation, claiming she did them a favor by giving their lives meaning. Selena, appalled, asserts that Gouda was right about Kieran, though she remains puzzled by the governor's cryptic warnings. Kieran, like many villains, falls victim to her need to monologue. It's her undoing. Dolan reveals he's been concealing a small transmitting device, a gadget capable of broadcasting their conversation across great distances. This is how Gouda uncovered Kieran's vile schemes in the first place. At that moment, a white knight bursts into the room, flanked by the royal SWAT team. They reveal that this entire situation has been an elaborate sting operation. Gouda and Dean Olivia had been working together to expose Kieran's crimes. When Kieran instructed Gouda to falsify paperwork, it was to fabricate evidence framing Selena for a crime. The witch had planned to claim self-defense in killing Selena, using the forged reports as proof. Dolan is horrified, struggling to fathom how someone could fall so far into darkness. But Kieran, bitter and unrepentant, explains that the blessed can never understand the struggles of the cursed. She recounts her youth, a time when she was consumed by insecurity over her appearance. Instead of self-acceptance or meaningful change, Kieran turned to dark magic. Her obsession with beauty led her to gruesome acts, harvesting traits from others to craft her ideal form. Around the room are horrifying displays of her cruelty, remnants of her victims preserved grotesquely, submerged in strange liquids. Kieran's sins have transformed her, and with a wicked grin, she reveals her final form. Her skin tears, her body contorts, and she becomes an amalgamation of those she has consumed, a monstrous testament to her madness. Kieran lunges at Selena, but Dolan quickly realizes the depths of her depravity. This form, blending countless lives into one, could only result from a deal with the devil. The grotesque creature unleashes chaos, attacking the guards. Despite her horrific appearance, Kieran still believes she is beautiful, even offering the guards her beauty secrets. Selena steps up, using her cursed gaze to paralyze the witch momentarily, giving the soldiers a chance to retreat. The battle intensifies as Kieran breaks free of Selena's hold, launching a vicious assault. Christina arrives just in time, summoning her enchanted blade, El Spada. With a powerful strike, she slices through Kieran's grotesque appendages, turning the tide of the battle. The fight is far from over, but the heroes stand united, ready to end Kieran's reign of terror once and for all. Mushroom wishes that he could be as beautiful as the witch one day, but Olivia tells them that this is no time to be impressed. Kieran unleashes her evil magic, but Christina manages to hold it back just long enough for Dolan to complete his own magic doodles, minus the blood. Before he lets loose his ultimate attack, Dolan asks the witch a poignant question. Is she happy? Kieran's subsequent rant about her perfection and overwhelming power is enough to settle matters. Dolan gets some character development as he's no longer afraid of work culture, and he begins to shame the witch. He declares that she stole the dreams of several people, and blood-stained hands like hers can never obtain beauty. Dolan then fires off a powerful offensive magic called the Celestial Javelin, and it completely annihilates the monster once and for all. The girls are amazed by our boy, but he just strikes the most bland hero pose ever. With that traumatic event behind them, Dolan and Selena return to an ordinary life in the city. Selena is trying to study with Dolan's guidance, but all the book reading hurts her tiny brain. Dolan encourages her by saying that she won't be dumb for much longer. She'll be able to read them right in this nation's language, and he can't wait to see what she comes up with. Christina joins Selena and Dolan for tea, praising Selena for how much progress she's made. Olivia and Portobello arrive next, thanking the group for their efforts in stopping Kieran's dark schemes. Dolan, ever humble, credits Olivia for providing the antidote to Kieran's poison, joking about how much baby oil the witch might have used on them if they'd stayed unconscious. Gouda steps forward with a handful of papers. One is a permit granting Selena the freedom to slither or stroll through the city as she pleases. The other is a registration form, officially allowing her to settle down in Burn Village and pursue the peaceful life she's dreamed of. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Selena beams with happiness, even teasing Gouda about how much less ridiculous they look without that oversized hat. The dean reveals there's someone else eager to meet them. Enter Denzel, Grandma Meguru's son, who has been keeping up with the village's events through her letters. He's thrilled to finally meet the Lamia he's heard so much about. Denzel congratulates them on their victory and offers to give Selena and Dolan a tour of Galois. The tour, however, doesn't go as planned. Many townsfolk, having never seen a Lamia before, react with fear and unease. Selena, ever the optimist, hides her disappointment behind a warm smile, declaring her intent to pick up a few souvenirs before they leave. As the day winds down and their departure nears, Denzel and Olivia approach Dolan with a proposition. They invite him to enroll at the Magical Academy, emphasizing that his untapped potential deserves proper training. With their guidance, he could expand his abilities, both intellectually and spiritually, making him an even greater protector of his home and loved ones. Dolan is visibly tempted by the offer, though Selena's unease is apparent. The Mushroom Man, as persuasive as ever, tries to sway Dolan, but Dolan remains uncertain. When Christina asks what ties him so strongly to Burn Village, Dolan explains that he feels unfinished business there, a calling he can't ignore. Later, as they reflect on the day, Dolan seeks Christina's thoughts on the academy. She agrees with Denzel, noting that the school could help him reach new heights. While Dolan mulls over his choices, Selena's reluctance to see her cherished reincarnated dragon leave so soon is evident. The decision weighs heavily on Dolan. The allure of the academy is strong, yet the simplicity and bonds of the village tug at his heart. For now, Burn Village and its people remain his anchor, even as the possibilities of the wider world loom on the horizon. Meanwhile, somewhere in the forest, an unsuspecting elf spies on an army of what seems to be monstrous ants flooding the area within the shimmering portal they pour out of. Stand for mysterious figures. The story continues. We see the first to encounter these monsters is an elf scout who happened to be in the area, but he stood no chance against them and was immediately killed. His partner heard the commotion and rushed over to his side to check on him, but by the time he arrived, his friend was already dead, and he became the next victim of the monsters. Sometime later, the rest of the elf scouts come to investigate the area, and the leader is horrified to find that his men have been completely massacred. Among the bodies, he finds one elf that is still alive, but he's barely breathing and won't last much longer in his current condition. The leader asks what did this to him, so just before the injured elf dies, he tells the leader that there was a horde of monsters here. Back in Burn Village, Christina and Dolan assist with swordsmanship lessons for the younger kids. Selena, watching from nearby, enjoys the sight of Dolan sparring with the children but can't shake her unease about the possibility of him leaving for the academy one day. Her thoughts are interrupted when a group of kids begins playing with her tail, prompting her to chase them around with playful laughter. Dolan smiles at the sight, happy to see Selena bonding with the children. He silently hopes this peaceful harmony lasts a long time. Christina, however, has a different plan in mind. She approaches Dolan with a request. She wants to venture into the forest. She's heard rumors of dangerous creatures in the area and sees it as a perfect opportunity to test her strength. Dolan hesitates, pointing out that the forest isn't a place to wander into lightly. Christina counters with practical reasoning. Albert has been complaining about limited grazing space for his pigs, and clearing out some of the monsters would allow the pigs to safely forage for food. Fighting would just be an added perk. Unable to argue with her logic, Dolan agrees to lead the way. They're joined by Balin, Selena, and a small group of soldiers for added protection. As they enter the forest, Selena notices the heavy armor worn by the soldiers and asks why it's necessary for such a brief trip. Dolan explains that caution is vital, especially since reports of powerful monsters in the area have been increasing. While he, Selena, and Christina can handle most threats, it's better to be safe than sorry. After guiding Albert's pigs to a suitable grazing spot, Balin and the soldiers move ahead to scout the area. Balin warns his men to stay alert, emphasizing that the forest can be unpredictable. Despite the warning, one soldier chases after a pig that has wandered into the bushes. The soldier quickly regrets his decision to separate from the group when he comes face to face with a massive, blade-fanged tiger. The predator, its razor-sharp teeth dripping with hunger, lunges for him. At the last moment, Balin intervenes, swinging his hammer to knock the beast aside. The tiger retreats into the shadows, and the immediate danger passes. Balin reprimands the soldier for his carelessness, shouting that such recklessness could have cost him his life. However, in his frustration, Balin fails to heed his own advice. Before he can react, a massive ant-like creature ambushes him from behind, its sharp mandibles snapping dangerously close. The forest, it seems, is alive with threats, and the group realizes their mission has become far more perilous than expected. Christina, Selena, and Dolan all hear the sound of Balin getting attacked, so they rush over to make sure he is all right, and find Balin on the ground with an ant monster in front of him. The ant monster tries to attack them as well, but before it does, Dolan hits it with an energy blast that temporarily knocks it out. Christina asks what kind of monster it is since she's never seen anything like it, but Dolan tells her that the thing isn't actually a monster. It's a demon. It's only a low-rank scout demon, but regardless, it is still incredibly powerful and agile, so they need to be careful if they want to defeat it. Dolan tells her he will keep it busy, and while he does, he wants Christina to land the killing blow. He makes the first move and fires another energy bolt at the demon, and while it's distracted, Christina charges forward and slashes it in half. Even though the demon has been defeated, Christina is left confused as to how something like that could have gotten here in the first place. But Dolan asked her to keep this a secret until they figure out more about what happened. Later that day, the group returns to Burn Village, where an air of unease hangs heavy. The villagers gather anxiously, waiting to hear news of Balin and the injured soldiers. The village chief finally speaks, explaining that while Balin and the others sustained serious injuries, their lives are not in immediate danger. With time and care, they are expected to recover. Dolan and Christina recount the events in the forest, mentioning the bladed tiger and a strange, unidentified creature that attacked them. Though they provide few details about the second monster, the village chief's expression grows grave. If even Balin, the village's strongest soldier, was overpowered, it doesn't bode well for anyone else's chances against such threats. A short while later, Grandma Meguru arrives at the town hall with an update. Balin has regained consciousness and is expected to make a full recovery, though the wound inflicted by the mysterious creature was severe. Concerned murmurs ripple through the hall. Something dangerous is brewing in the forest. Dolan steps forward and declares his intent to investigate the forest further, but Grandma Meguru quickly shuts him down, worried for his safety. If Balin couldn't handle the monster, what chance does Dolan have? She suggests the forest be declared off-limits, hoping the danger will stay confined. Dolan understands her caution but argues that ignoring the problem will only leave the village in a perpetual state of fear. Reluctantly, Grandma Meguru agrees to let him go, but only if he takes someone with him. Christina volunteers immediately, but the village chief firmly denies her offer. As a student under the village's care, her safety is paramount, and he cannot risk her getting hurt. Christina respects the chief's reasoning, but Dolan still needs a companion. Selena steps forward and offers to accompany him, citing her cursed eyes and magical abilities as assets. Dolan agrees, grateful for her support. Before they finalize their plans, the village chief makes one additional request. If their lives are ever in jeopardy, they must retreat. Their safety is the highest priority. With the terms set, Dolan and Selena prepare to leave at dawn. As they walk toward the forest the next morning, Selena feels a mix of determination and nervousness. She's eager to prove her worth and refuses to let her emotions distract her. Just as they approach the forest's edge, Dolan stops abruptly, sensing a presence. It turns out to be Christina, casually strolling nearby. Dolan confronts her, reminding her of the village chief's instructions to stay away from the forest. Christina insists her walk is unrelated, though her determination betrays her true intentions. She admits that while she promised to avoid the forest, her love for the village compels her to act. If something threatens Burn, she wants to help protect the people she cares for. Dolan sighs, appreciating her resolve but reminding her to respect the chief's wishes. Christina reluctantly agrees to stay at the forest's edge, promising to remain vigilant and offer support if needed. With that, Dolan and Selena press forward into the forest, their mission to uncover the truth behind its dangers just beginning. Selena doesn't see much of a problem with letting Christina join them since she's a capable fighter, and Selena can understand Christina's feelings when she says she wants to be helpful to the village. Besides, since she's here anyway, she might as well join their team. Christina thanks both of them for being so understanding, and together the three begin slaying monsters as they make their way through the forest. After they dealt with the spider monsters, Christina comes across another monster that looks very menacing, so she's about to attack. But Selena stops her because this one is actually pretty calm. Selena offers it some food, and Dolan seems to be getting along great with monster children as well. So since the monsters aren't a threat, Selena sets up a picnic for all of them to share. Christina is amazed by how calm Selena is even though there's a huge monster right next to them. But Selena points out that she is also a monster, so she doesn't see much to be scared about. She encourages Christina to try feeding the baby so she can see that they are completely harmless. So Christina gives one of the babies an apple, and it begins happily munching on it. Christina now sees how cute monsters like these can be, and Selena explains that they will probably just be out here looking for food, which means something must have driven them out of their usual feeding grounds. And if the situation is serious enough that even powerful monsters are being affected, it's even more reason for them to get down to the bottom of this. Christina takes a bite of the sandwich Dolan prepared for her, and her eyes widen in surprise. "This is amazing," she exclaims. Dolan explains with a modest smile that the bread was baked by his mother, while he took the time to cure the meat himself. Selena, watching Christina savor the sandwich, comments on how effortlessly beautiful Christina looks even while eating. Dolan adds, "Christina has a certain charm. No matter what she does, Christina blushes at the compliment, and Selena, suddenly inspired, asks Christina for advice on how to be charming like her. Maybe it'll help me find a husband," Selena says earnestly. Christina, caught off guard, stammers that she doesn't have any special techniques for charm. Dolan quickly reassures Selena, "You don't need any secret tricks. You're already great the way you are." Selena's mind starts to race. If Dolan thinks I'm fine the way I am, does that mean he finds me charming? And if he finds me charming, does that mean he wants to make me his wife? She wonders, her heart fluttering. Before Selena's thoughts spiral further, rustling from the bushes catches everyone's attention. They immediately go on high alert, only to find a tiny fairy emerging timidly. The fairy, her voice trembling, warns, "You need to leave. Danger is coming." No sooner does the warning leave her lips than a group of demons appears. Christina and Dolan spring into action, weapons ready. The demons are far more numerous than before, forcing the group to split up. Christina takes on the wave of demons at the front, her blade flashing as she cuts them down. Dolan holds the rear, intercepting a demon attempting to flank them. However, just as he finishes one off, another lunges at him. His sword, embedded in the first demon's skull, is stuck. With no time to retrieve it, Dolan reluctantly taps into his draconic powers, his arm transforming into a dragon's claw. He dispatches the second demon with a crushing blow before reverting to his human form. "Using my dragon abilities makes these fights a lot easier," Dolan admits, though he doesn't seem entirely pleased. Meanwhile, Christina is nearly overwhelmed by her group of demons. Just as one lunges for her, Selena steps in, casting a powerful spell that eliminates the final threat. With the battle over, the group turns their attention to the fairy. She introduces herself as Marl and expresses her gratitude. "Thank you for saving me from those demons," she says. Marl explains that the demons started chasing her out of nowhere. If this is what they've been doing in the forest, it explains why the usual monsters have been fleeing their territories. The group listens intently as Marl continues. "But those demons you fought, they're just scouts. That means something much stronger is coming. And if it arrives, it could spell disaster for the entire region." Dolan, Christina, and Selena exchange grim looks, realizing that their troubles are far from over. Christina asked Marl if she can give them any useful information about the demon because they want to help her. And Marl appreciates the offer, but she's not supposed to talk to outsiders. Just then, Dolan senses a group closing in on them, but it doesn't feel the same as the demons. Christina has no idea where these people are, but she wants to draw her sword in order to be ready for a possible fight. However, before she does, Dolan stops her and says the people surrounding them aren't showing any signs of hostility, so he doesn't want to provoke them. He leaves his weapon on the ground, so Christina does the same. And once the elves are confident that Dolan and the others are not an immediate threat to them, they show themselves. But they still don't trust the humans, so they order Marl to get away from Dolan. The story continues. We see Marl goes up to the elf squad leader, Geo, and tries to get him to calm down, saying that Dolan and his friends just saved her from the monster. But Geo is already aware of that, judging by their surroundings. Selena realizes that they must have wandered into the elven forest, which would explain why the elves reacted to them with such hostility. But Dolan thinks everything will be fine since they didn't come into the forest with the intention of fighting. However, as a precaution, he tells the two to get behind him in case things turn violent. Geo approaches Dolan, and the first thing he does is thank him for saving Marl. But that aside, he still needs to know what business two humans and a lamia would have in an elven forest. Dolan explains calmly that he hails from Burn Village, which has recently suffered attacks from a type of monster they had never encountered before. He deduced that the problem likely originated from this forest, prompting him and his companions to investigate. Despite having good intentions, Dolan politely apologizes for trespassing on elven territory without prior permission. Geo, the leader of the elves, acknowledges Dolan's reasons for being there and assures him he understands. However, Geo warns them to leave the forest immediately, explaining that it's far too perilous to remain. Dolan inquires if Geo is referring to the demon soldiers that have been causing chaos. Joe's troubled expression confirms his suspicions. Dolan guesses that the elves' village must also have been attacked, but from Joe's tone, it's clear that the situation here is far worse. An entire demon army threatens the elves. As Geo turns to head back to his village to aid in its defense, Christina interjects passionately. She demands to know how he plans to fight a demon army alone. Her voice rises with urgency as she insists that if what he says is true, his village is at risk of annihilation. Christina fervently pleads with Geo to allow them to help. However, her intense emotions get the better of her, and she grabs Geo by the collar, alarming the nearby elves, who immediately draw their weapons. Dolan steps in, quickly calming Christina and diffusing the tension. The elves lower their weapons, realizing that Christina's outburst stemmed from genuine concern for their plight. Moreover, the elves had earlier witnessed Christina's impressive swordsmanship during the battle against the demons, convincing them that her presence could be a valuable asset in their fight. Dolan is relieved that the misunderstanding is resolved, but the revelation of a demon army in the forest confirms his fears. The demons must have emerged from an underworld gate hidden somewhere nearby. If left unchecked, the gate would allow more demons to pour into the land. Determined to prevent further destruction, Dolan resolves to destroy the gate, even if it means exposing his draconic heritage. Though the risk of being ostracized from Burn looms, his commitment to protecting those he cares for outweighs his personal fears. Dolan approaches Geo with a proposal. He suggests that humans and elves unite to confront the demon threat. Acknowledging that elves rarely work with humans, Dolan appeals to Geo to make an exception for the greater good. Initially, Geo hesitates, citing the rules that forbid humans from entering the elven village. However, his sister, Theo, steps forward and urges him to reconsider. She emphasizes that the safety of their people must take precedence over tradition. Theo also points out that Dolan and his companions seem trustworthy and implores her brother to put faith in them. The other elves echo her sentiments, swaying Geo to their side. Reluctantly but resolutely, Geo agrees. He extends his hand to Dolan and formally introduces himself, officially requesting the group's assistance in protecting the elven village. The alliance is sealed, setting the stage for a united effort against the encroaching demon army. But just then, a loud rumbling echoes through the forest, and the sky is filled with the dark, oppressive energy. Dolan has felt something like this before, so he knows it can only mean one thing. The portal has been fully opened. As a result, powerful demons are able to cross over into this world, and they already know this means trouble. So Dolan casts a wind acceleration spell on everyone and tells them that they have to hurry back to the elf village before it is destroyed. Meanwhile, the demons that arrive through the portal are talking about how nice the freshly corrupted surface areas are and how much fun they are going to have once they start destroying stuff. They were sent here by their Dark Lord in order to clear a path for him. So Jaren reminds the others that the Dark Lord is trusting them to carry out their task flawlessly, so they have to be serious. He then notices that one of them is missing, so he asks the others if they know where George is. They tell him that George hasn't made it through the portal yet, probably because he has such a ridiculous amount of mana to transport across. So until George arrives, the others decide to have a little fun. They can sense some elves nearby, so the two of them decide to play a game to see who can find and kill the elves first. Jaren scoffs at the idea of wasting his energy on what he considers insignificant elves. However, he casually waves off the matter, giving his underlings free rein to entertain themselves with the carnage. Meanwhile, the elf village is under siege by a swarm of scout demons. The elves are holding their defensive line, but the sheer volume of attackers is slowly wearing them down. To make matters worse, Georude, a powerful demon commander, soon strides onto the battlefield. With a booming voice, he proclaims that this attack marks the beginning of a war against the surface dwellers. The elves muster their courage and launch a volley of arrows at him, but their efforts are futile. Georude is completely unfazed. With terrifying strength, he smashes through the village walls, leaving the elves vulnerable. The forest spirits relay this dire news to Geo, who realizes the situation is far graver than he feared. Determined to reach the village in time to help, Geo urges the group to pick up their pace. However, their path is blocked by a horde of scout demons, forcing them to engage in battle before continuing their journey. Back in the village, Georude takes his time tormenting the elves, delighting in their fear. Just as he's about to skewer one of his victims, thick vines erupt from the ground and wrap around him. Black roses bloom from the vines as they drain his mana and blood, sapping his strength. The force behind this attack is Deirdre, a powerful forest spirit. Her intervention buys the village precious time, as Georude struggles futilely to break free. Meanwhile, Dolan and his companions battle the swarm of scout demons with relentless determination. As the elves rain arrows down on the attackers, Dolan casts a spell that unleashes a barrage of energy bolts, decimating the ranks of the demons. Christina wields her sword with precision, cutting through the remaining enemies, while Selena uses her cursed eyes to immobilize them, giving the others an edge in battle. Amid the chaos, Geo manages to open a secret passage leading into the elf village. He directs the retreating elves to safety, then calls for Dolan and the others to follow. However, Dolan suggests they need to buy more time to ensure the villagers escape. He retrieves 2 magic stones, gifts from the earth spirit he and Selena had defeated in the past, and hands them to Selena and Christina. With the stone's immense power, Selena casts a high-level wind spell, while Christina unleashes a devastating earth spell, wreaking havoc on the remaining demons. Not wanting to be outdone, Dolan taps into his own reserves of power. Drawing inspiration from Meguru's teachings, he uses the last magic stone to cast an explosive spell that obliterates the final wave of demons in a fiery blaze. With the path finally clear, the group catches up to Geo and the other elves. Geo, having witnessed their incredible strength and teamwork, expresses his gratitude and confidence in their abilities. For the first time, he feels genuine hope that with their help, his village might yet survive the demon onslaught. Back at the elf village, Georude still has Deirdre restrained, so she begins lecturing him because of all the people he killed. Georude laughs in her face and says that while she may think killing people is a sin to him, it is an even greater sin to be weak. So all the weaklings who died at his hands deserve what they got. It's pretty ironic that he says this while his life is being drained away. So Deirdre informs him that she considers Georude weak and therefore, on top of all the lives he has taken, according to his own moral code, he deserves to die for being weak. So, Deirdre is more than happy to deliver swift justice and wipe him off the face of the earth. However, just before she could put an end to Gerude's sad life, Raphrasia arrives and causes the vines to decay. Once Georude has been released, Raphrasia commends Deirdre for being strong enough to hold Georude down like that. And Georude yells at Raphrasia, saying he didn't need her help. However, that's not what it looked like to her. Regardless, since Georude has had his turn playing with Deodora, Raphrasia wants to have some fun as well. Deirdre knows she's about to get jumped, so she decides to summon some of her eyes and calls for aid from the flower spirits of the forest. However, she gets no response. Turns out that while Raphrasia was on her way here, she ran into a bunch of flower spirits, and now there are no more flower spirits. Deirdre is filled with fury after discovering what Raphrasia has done to her beloved flower spirits. With a fierce vow of vengeance, she unleashes a barrage of vine spikes aimed at both Raphrasia and Georude. Raphrasia, however, remains unfazed, even amused by Deirdre's rage. She dismissively explains that conflict among flowers is a natural part of survival, claiming her nature as a flower spirit justifies her actions. But Raphrasia isn't a spirit of harmless surface blossoms. She embodies the sinister Raphflora flowers of the demonic realm, parasitic blooms that drain the life force of anything unfortunate enough to come near. Confident in her abilities, Raphrasia easily decays Deirdre's vine attacks by sapping their vitality. Unrelenting, Deirdre sends another vine toward Raphrasia. As expected, Raphrasia disintegrates it, but hidden within the first vine is a second, which strikes before Raphrasia can counter. The attack only scratches Raphrasia, but the minor injury infuriates her. The sight of her flawless face marred by Deirdre's attack completely shatters her playful demeanor. Furious, Raphrasia vows to make Deirdre suffer. Undeterred by Raphrasia's threats, Deirdre boldly declares her intent to kill her. But in her focus on Raphrasia, she momentarily forgets about Georude. Tired of waiting, Georude declares that he will finish Deirdre himself. Raphrasia protests, wanting to deliver the killing blow, But Georude ignores her and charges at Deirdre. Deirdre tries to block him with a wall of vines, but Georude, now familiar with her tactics, evades them with ease and slices through the wall with his spear. Forced to retreat, Deirdre jumps backward, leaving herself vulnerable. Seizing the opportunity, Reincarnated strikes, delivering a brutal kick to Deirdre's stomach. Reincarnated's attacks are particularly deadly because they sap both life force and mana from her victims. Deirdre staggers, realizing she cannot withstand the combined assault of both enemies for long. As despair sets in, she silently apologizes to the spirits she failed to avenge, resigned to her fate. But just as Georude and Reincarnated prepare to strike the final blow, a massive wave of energy crashes down from the sky, forcing them to scatter. The shockwave carves a deep scar into the battlefield, sending dust and debris flying. As the air clears, the source of the attack is revealed. Dolan stands at the ready, his expression a mix of steely resolve and righteous fury. His presence sends a clear message. The fight is far from over. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, share to your friends. For know what happened the next, don't forget to subscribe the channel.